Hail, and welcome to Heathen Hearth, the show where we make recipes inspired by the historic and ethnographic imagination. This week, we're making golden Frogspawn custard. Golden Frogspawn custard. So this recipe is actually more of a modern sort of hipster recipe. It's not actually made with Frogspawn, just eventually it will look like Frogspawn. What you need to do for this recipe actually is to make hemp milk first. And what I'm going to do is make hemp milk, which is just like making any other nut milk really. What you do is you grind some sort of seed with hot water, usually hot water, and then strain it. But before I strain it, I'm going to be adding all my spices, my masalas, that I'm going to be using to make it golden and to give it a lot of delicious flavor. There, I just got some water, I just forgotten that. So this is very warm water, it doesn't necessarily have to be boiling. And I have here shelled hemp seeds, and it's about a quarter cup. So I'm just putting that in my high power blender, rinsing it out a little bit. Put the rest in. Now I'm going to be using dates to make this a little bit sweeter. So I think I'm going to add, maybe for that amount, maybe 3 dates. I don't want it very sweet. I'm going to put my whole spices in now as well, not my ground spices. I think I'm going to use my ground spices after. Oh no, I might as well put it all together. I have 1 star anise here. I have some green cardamom. 2, 3. I'm going to put 4 pods in. I have turmeric here. This is turmeric powder. I'm going to put a fair amount of that in. It has an earthy taste, but it's very good for you, and it's particularly my joints because I have joint issues with the Lyme disease. It helps a lot. Now remember, when you use turmeric, you also need to have black pepper in there as well. Otherwise, the beneficial parts of the turmeric will not be as well absorbed by your system. A little bit of salt for flavor intensity. This is a Korean gochugaru powdered hot pepper, just a touch of that. And cinnamon, and I'm going to use a lot of cinnamon in this. There, see, a big heaping amount of it, almost a teaspoon there. Okay, and then I have some matcha. This is going to be a breakfast food, so I want to wake everybody up, or wake myself up, I guess. So I'll go to a tablespoon. It also has a lot of antioxidants in it. And lid, there we go. And I'm going to put this on, I think I'll just do it manual actually. Here, there's manual. And I'll turn it on. Turn it on. There, is that on? There we go. Okay, so going slow. Bring it up. So that did not turn out quite as golden as I was thinking it would, but with the matcha, it looks a lot greener. So I think I might still call it golden Frogspawn, because now it's a lot more froggy though, now that it's got this green color. All right, so next stage is I just need to run this milk through a bag. I have a soy milk straining bag. They're a lot cheaper than the ones that are marketed as nut milk bags. This is like a couple bucks, though nut milk bags can get very expensive. You can really just use cheesecloths or something too if you want. I just got this because I'm planning on making this fairly often. All right, so now I need a container for straining. All right. Okay, so here's my sieve. Now my nut milk bag. I'll just put around delicious looking green beverage. So, lesson to self, prepare myself a bit better. I could have easily gotten myself a large funnel. I have them downstairs. I wasn't planning ahead. See, I planned enough ahead to make put out all the ingredients looking all nice, but I didn't have my equipment, right? I'm making a mess. Woo! Oh well. Not a big deal. You can always make more. It takes remarkably little hemp seeds to make the milk. Guess you can make it thicker. But what I'm doing is I'm actually making it so that I can make this pudding, and I'm making the pudding with chia seeds. So chia seeds are they're from the mint family. They are native to central Mexico. They're touted now as sort of like a hipster superfood. They're used by groups such as the Tarahumara, who are a tribe of First Nations people in northern Mexico, who are known as extreme long distance runners. It was one of their foods, and the Aztecs used it, etc. Supposedly it's very high in omega-3s, so for vegans who aren't eating meat or fish or that type of thing, it's a good source, along with flax, of those types of nutrients. I find it just tastes good, and it has a lot of properties that people think are great. One of the cool things about it, though, is that it gels up, and it has little black seeds. So the reason I called this Frogspawn was because it looks like Frogspawn. If you've ever seen Frogspawn, it's kind of jelly-like with little black dots in the middle. And this this type of chia pudding looks a lot like that. Now, it's obviously not historical at all, but it is ethnographic in the sense that this is a food of modern sort of nutritional trends. It's really marketed that way. Same thing with this turmeric milk is super popular right now, but it's traditional Ayurvedic from the Indian subcontinent, where turmeric is used as almost like a panacea in a lot of it's in a lot of remedies, and especially ones used in the household, like sort of folk remedies. Now the cannabis seed, of course, also too, is one of the oldest cultivars, coming from just east of the Ural Mountains, probably originally. It was actually probably domesticated or made came into human consumption even before agriculture, which is interesting. A bit like wolves living on the edges of human habitation that formed a symbiotic relationship with them. So there's a theory now that cannabis first became used as a semi-wild plant that lived in places where there was human disturbances and occupations, junk heaps and so on, and previous village sites. So I found that really interesting. It's a lot of work, more work needs to be done on that, of course. And then figs, for my friend Baz, of course, this is where ancient Mesopotamia comes in. Figs are also one of the, not figs, I should say dates. Dates are one of the oldest cultivated tree species and fruits. So we've got some ancient stuff here happening from Central Asia, from around the Middle East, the Fertile Crescent area, as well as old variety from central northern Americas. And then our spices are all nodding their heads towards the Indian subcontinent, except of course for the chili peppers, which were originally from South America, made their way to Central America, and all the way around the world to many, many cuisines where they call chili peppers traditional. even though they only came in since the 1500s in most places in the world. That's the thing, eh? Like, what's traditional? Tradition's invented in the present anyways, because when you're doing something at the time, you don't call it traditional, you just call it what we do, right? But how far back do you have to go to get really traditional? You have these quick breads, right? Like, you know, Scottish soda bread and so on that are traditional, yet the production of soda and, you know, artificial leavening agents only came in 1700s, 1800s, depending on which one you're talking about. And is 200 years traditional? Is 300 years? Like, what is traditional? So now we have, you know, traditional recipes from the early parts of from the 1950s that, you know, are canned and involve prepared ingredients, and I wonder what the traditional recipes of the future are going to be like. Looks like I wasted a lot of this stuff. So that the proportions seem to work roughly like that. You know, you have roughly, you could make this with something else besides hemp seeds, of course. You could make it with cashews, walnuts, any nut really that or seed that has a high fat content would be good for it. And the proportion, as you saw there, was about a quarter of the volume. Maybe a little bit more of the seed to the water. And then when I'm going to be adding the chia seeds, it'll again be a proportion of a quarter dry chia seeds to whatever liquid you're using. And then you have to let it sit and gel until it becomes your breakfast pudding. What a frickin' train wreck of mess, eh? Alright. That's a bit better. Cleaned up somewhat. I also poured the spiced hemp milk into a measuring cup, and I yielded about 1 cup. You saw I did spill a bit, but I think you can probably yield about 1 1/4 cups. Here I'm going to be adding, let's see. You want about a quarter of the volume, final volume in seeds, and then pouring in the milk. Because the seeds will absorb. So I guess that looks to be about 2 of my teaspoonfuls. I like to have this stuff for breakfast. I have it for lunch sometimes too. I find it very filling. I have not made, of course, this exact flavor before. These little jars are cute too, by the way. They're made. They're actually recycled. Oh, didn't make very much. I could have made more. They're recycled yogurt containers. I love products that come in nice containers that you can reuse. Alright. So obviously I should have made more. Maybe I'll make a couple other flavors for the tasting. But now that you've seen how it works, maybe we'll do ones that are just golden instead of with the tea. Alright. Oh, yeah. Well, you can see it already sticking to the bottom. Make sure. Obviously, I should be shaking this right away. Oh, look at me already spilling everything. Man, I'm messy today. Okay, so tip. Stir it right away. Pro tip. Okay, we'll be back for the tasting. I'll make maybe another flavor. Maybe I'll do one. I think I'll do one just plain golden with no tea. That way it can be super golden. We'll try both kinds. So here it is, the golden Frogspawn. I think I took out the one that has, that's made from just the turmeric, doesn't have the matcha powder in it. And you can see it has this gloopy texture. Gloop. And the individual chia seeds have a kind of a mucusy sort of outside, and you can that has thickened everything up from the soluble fiber, and have this black seed in the middle. So it does have that look. It's almost like little tiny bubble teas. So I'm gonna try it out. It has this really interesting mouthfeel. It's creamy and soft and slippery, and some of the bits of it move quicker in your mouth than others, but it has this little crunch too when you crunch down on the inside of the seeds. This, because I put so much turmeric in it, it has a very earthy taste, but with the hemp milk it's very creamy, and then because of the other aromatic spices that I added, that earthiness just has this sort of round, warm feel. I really like it. It's for people who like sort of more interesting bitter flavors, maybe people who like green tea or black coffee, because it does have that slight bitterness to it, and it has the earthiness that you might get from, you know, beets or something as well. Not exactly the same taste, but I really like it. It's exceedingly creamy, the hemp milk. It's quite satisfying. It doesn't taste very sweet, but there's just enough of the dates in there that the spices taste good. Because some of them, like cardamom for instance, it's nice to have a little bit of either a sweetness from a vegetable if you're going to have a curry, or a sweetness from a date if you're just making a dessert. And this is a little bit like almost like a semi-savory breakfast dessert. It's great. Looks really weird though. So if you're eating this on the bus, make sure you wear your wizard hat. And if anybody asks, you're eating a Frogspawn potion. All right. So it's been great with having you here at Hearthsters. Till next time, may everyone at your hearth be hale and hearty.